Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Tuesday, February 18. Once again, as we always are, in all transparency, this is being recorded actually pretty much late afternoon. We're not live right now because Eric Engels is in Boston, and he is very, very busy. He's been covering the Four Nations tourney, and Eric's usually a regular collaborator on Monday, but seeing as that he was working game day and game night, he's available for us today, and I had to take him when he was available because he's going to be booked for the rest of the evening. So we'll get to Eric in just a couple of minutes, and it's important that I tell you that because, of course, there's A, in all transparency, and B, there's things that can break between then and between now and then. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by Playground, giving away over $120,000 in cash prizes this February at their cash game poker tables, 7 days a week and 5 nights a week. Go and play anytime from 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. or enjoy the late night games from 9:30 p.m. to 2 a.m. for a chance to win. Payouts every 30 minutes. Get in on the action at Playground. Visit playground.ca for more details. So once again, 7 days a week and 5 nights a week. It's Playground. Let's get to Eric Engels of Sportsnet at sportsnet.ca. Eric, what's going on? I would imagine a lot, huh?
Everything is crazy here, and I'm happy that you put out the transparency that we're speaking at 3 p.m., and I know this is airing at 10, and it's pretty essential considering the way the goalposts have moved several times in this tournament with rules. And I know we normally talk about the Canadiens, but we're going to talk about Team Canada, Tony, and Team USA because we're about to witness, if it's anything like last Saturday night, one of the best hockey games we've ever seen. And I just think I want people to understand what's gone on here over the last few days. So as you know, Thomas Harley replaced Shea Theodore, and because Cale Makar was sick, Harley was allowed to play for Team Canada. He wasn't allowed to practice in the days leading up, take the morning skate, so long as Makar was on the ice, which he was, because Makar was a last-second scratch. And then all of a sudden, Harley is in this tournament. Harley ends up having arguably the best game any Canadian defenseman played. He played a fantastic hockey game.
Yep.
On Sunday,
loved him.
I sent an email to League Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly. And I asked, Bill, I understand that Harley was supposed to be a replacement if 2 roster players were down here. If Makar is to come back, now that Harley has played in the tournament and is on the roster, does that mean that Harley cannot play? Is there any restrictions on Harley being used by Canada? Daly responded several hours later, because I assume there was some conversation between him, Team Canada's brass, potentially the other teams of this tournament. And what he said was there is 0 restrictions on Thomas Harley's use, meaning that if Makar was playing, Harley could play too, and somebody else like Sanheim could be scratched. On Monday, John Cooper basically said that wasn't the case, and Harley, who was listed as a healthy scratch, might have been scratched because he wasn't allowed to play. Because Cale Makar did return against Finland and helped Canada punch its ticket to the final of this game, okay? Now, I don't know what happened in between. I don't know if Team USA, Team Sweden, and Team Finland, with all the implications and tournament possibilities still alive going into that Finland-Canada game, said, whoa. If Cale Makar is playing, Thomas Harley should not be allowed to play. And all of a sudden, the rules changed, and that was the way it went, okay? Because I have a hard time believing that John Cooper wanted to scratch Thomas Harley after, by the numbers, he had the most expected goals of any defenseman. He had their best scoring chances in the game, which Connor Hellebuyck made great saves on, and he was just stalwart defensively. Flash forward to now, right? USA plays their game against Sweden. They were already missing Matthew Tkachuk. Brady Tkachuk goes down. Vinny Trocheck leaves the game at one point, favoring his hand, comes back. Austin Matthews is a late scratch with upper body injury, and Charlie McAvoy, since then, ruled out of the tournament with an infection to an upper body injury.
Correct. If I could just stop you there, I think it was first reported by the Boston Globe. Like to give them credit that they had it on. Two sources told them that Charlie McAvoy was at Massachusetts General Hospital for an upper body injury, and that was that. I think earlier this morning, Frank Saravalli told us that the information that he had was that McAvoy had an
infection,
an injury, which ended up an infection ended up coming out of it, and went to the hospital to treat the infection. I spoke with Gilbert Delorme earlier this morning on BPM Sports Radio, who said, players that have injuries in sports and in hockey, it is common that they get infections, and when they do, they usually end up going to the hospital, and they'll need to get antibiotics via intravenous. So anyway, that's that. A few minutes after, probably I think at around 10:30 this morning, the Boston Bruins send out a tweet, a press release, letting everyone know, and this is it, that here we go. The Boston Bruins have issued the following update on defenseman Charlie McAvoy. Charlie was admitted to Massachusetts General Hospital on Monday to undergo testing related to an upper body injury sustained during the Four Nations face-off, and is currently being evaluated by Boston Bruins head team physician Dr. Peter Asnis. He will not play for Team USA in the Four Nations face-off championship game on Thursday at TD Garden. The Boston Bruins will provide further updates on his condition and status as soon as they become available. Eric, please continue. But before you just are you surprised that came from the Bruins and not from Team USA? Or
no, because the Bruins would have a big say in whether or not McAvoy could continue to play in this tournament based on his condition, right? They're the ones who are paying the bills here. They're paying for his contract. So they should have a say. But either way, I think if McAvoy was eligible to play, the Bruins would have allowed him to.
Of course.
In any case,
it is a little bit ironic, though, that the Boston Bruins general manager is part of the management team for Hockey Canada. Well, it's a little bit ironic.
No, nothing to do with it. But
I get it, of course.
An hour later, USA coach Mike Sullivan says Quinn Hughes is on his way here.
Wow.
Now, Quinn Hughes, by the rules that have been put in place and changed, would only be allowed to be in this game if somebody outside of McAvoy, and it doesn't have to be a defenseman, okay? If they're down two players from their roster, that is at the point where they can add Quinn Hughes to practice, which they will have tomorrow, and add him potentially to the game if that's the case when the game gets going, that they're missing two of their roster players. Now, we know Austin Matthews and the Tkachuk brothers are playing. We don't have clarity on Vinny Trocheck. Nobody asked. He finished the game last night, though he played 155 in the third period and just 10:48 in total. Okay? There's nothing in my mind preventing USA from playing 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, dressing Quinn Hughes, quote unquote, as forward, and parking any one of their defensemen, probably Jake Sanderson, on the bench for the majority of the game if he's able to play. He was also part of the original roster. I don't know what's going to happen between now and the game. If I was betting right now with Quinn Hughes on his way to Boston, okay, if I was betting that he's going to be in the final, I would feel comfortable betting on that versus betting that he won't be, despite the fact that the rules look like he won't be. I do really like what my colleague Elliot Friedman wrote on Sportsnet in the aftermath of all this insanity with the rules and the rules changing and what will be between now and then.
Yeah, I read it. It was an article that was that came out actually at 3:06 p.m.
Yeah, the best players are here now. Cale Makar is available. Quinn Hughes is available. This is a best-on-best tournament. There's no more implication for Finland. There's no more implication for Sweden. It's Canada and USA. Let all the guys who are here be eligible to play in this game. We all win. This has been the best. I've been speaking to general managers, coaches, owners, people that work for the league, fans in general, Hall of Famers, legends. Universally, the opinion held is this past week and change has been the greatest sales, the greatest selling of the game of hockey in the NHL that we have seen in decades.
It's the best hockey we've seen in a long time.
And that game Saturday, Tony, before it started, I wrote, this has the potential to be the best hockey game we've ever seen. And people were like, wow, the 1975. It's like, I don't give a shit. Like, come on. It's evolution. Look at what these guys can do. You have Crosby, McDavid, and McKinnon playing on one side. The Tkachuk brothers, who are literally bashing their way through this tournament. Austin Matthews.
Jack Hughes.
Just the quality of
Jack
players
Eichel.
And the lead up of 11 years of not having a best on best, because you take the 2016 World Cup out of it, a lot of the players we just mentioned had to play for Team North America together. They couldn't even participate in the Canada-USA matchup. You would have thought they would have had several opportunities since then to do it, and it hasn't happened because of COVID, because they pulled out of the 2018 Olympics. People who laughed at that notion that this could be one of the best games, if not the best game we've ever seen, we're not laughing after that first period. And now that the tournament is on the line and there's a rematch after that game happened, don't rob us of any element that could make it that much better. And Quinn Hughes is one of those elements. And
I'm going to make it easy for you. When you made that statement, when you said that, Austin Matthews drafted first overall. Jack Hughes drafted first overall. Jack Eichel drafted second overall. Brady Tkachuk drafted fourth overall. Matthew Tkachuk drafted sixth overall. Nathan McKinnon for Canada drafted first overall. Connor McDavid drafted first overall. Sidney Crosby drafted first overall. Like, I can stop if people want me to stop, but to say that it had the potential to be an amazing, amazing hockey game, there is a lot of generational talent that I just mentioned and a lot of franchise players that I just mentioned.
Have you ever watched a better period of hockey? Maybe the game didn't live up to being the best game you've ever seen, but I have never watched a period of hockey like that, and I have never, ever been to a game live that came close to matching what we saw there. That was, and people who were like, it got kind of boring after the first. No, it didn't. Like, shift after shift, there was things going on, the speed of the game, the skill of it, that just dragged you out.
It would have been hard to top the first period. I mean, that's what it was, basically. Yeah. Not that it got boring, just would have been hard to top it.
But the defensive play on both sides was, if you are a true lover of the game, it's not just the goals. It's the plays that people make to make it that difficult to play. And the fact that we are on the eve, or I wish we were on the eve, we're actually,
a couple of days before.
Still a couple of days worth of quotes and rule changes away from this thing happening. Like, we're going to remember this for a very long time.
Yeah.
The players who are playing in it will never, ever forget it. And the emotions and just what's gone into it, the fact that we're guaranteed that this is just the first chapter of a great era of best on best coming every year at us, with the Olympics and World Cup trading off. We are the luckiest people on earth, and the game of hockey is going to grow in such a way that it's only going to get better and better and better because of this event. Give us what we deserve. Give us Quinn Hughes versus Cale Makar. Give us USA versus Canada. Give us the matchup that has the potential to be the best hockey we've ever watched.
I'm going to add to this in just a couple of minutes regarding Quinn Hughes and regarding Thomas Harley. Not before I talk to you about a beverage company and a dessert company, or an actual Italian pastry. So we'll start with the beverage company. That's Bittt Tibi. They launched their new ultra lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for chilly winter days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light and ultra refreshing. The reason why I bring them up, besides the fact that they are a sponsor of the Sick Podcast, is with the big game coming up. If you're looking for something to wash down your food, Bittt Tibi will be a pretty good choice during the hockey game. If you're looking for an amazing pastry, an amazing dessert, bomboloni are known as puffs from heaven. It's fluffy dough and rich filling, differentiated from any other pastry. Believe me when I tell you that, because if there's someone in Montreal who knows a thing or two about pastries, that would be me, right? Available for order at bomboloniboss.com. Customers can build their box with the flavors they choose, regular size and minis available. So whether you're hosting at home or you're going to see one of your buddies and watch the game at his place or their place, you need to have some desserts, and they need to be bombolonis from bomboloniboss.com. I want to get back to Quinn Hughes. And by the way, for all Montreal Canadiens fans that are going to be watching this podcast, the Canadiens stepped on the ice earlier this afternoon at around 2:00. And we're going to talk a little bit of Montreal Canadiens hockey during this podcast. But for now, the attention, of course, is with the Four Nations face-off. Eric, you talked about it being pretty crazy over the last couple of days there. I find it mind-boggling. And I'll add to that, disappointing that all this wasn't like in writing before it happened. This is a pay-as-you-go type of thing. We're learning on the fly here. I don't know. It doesn't seem normal to me. I understand it's extraordinary circumstances. I get it. But it was a possibility, right?
Look, it's the first time they've held an event like this in the middle of the season. It was put together with the best of intentions, not just by the NHL. I know people will point the finger at them, but you have to think of it from the Players Association perspective, right? Are you going to ask people during their 2-week vacation to park it all for the chance that they probably won't play for their country in a tournament and they're going to be on hold, and just stand by the phone? You're coming to the tournament and you have no chance of playing, because unless 2 guys get hurt, you can't get in. It's a tricky thing to navigate. These things came up. They'll learn from them. They'll learn from them as they move forward, right? The World Cup that comes in 2028 will happen. It's going to happen. Sorry, it's every couple of years. I'm blanking on the years right now. They're going to make adjustments. Adjustments next time around. They're going to make adjustments potentially between now and the final. So, yeah, this whole thing is nutty. We'll see what happens. To my knowledge, Quinn Hughes hasn't arrived in Boston yet, so we'll see what happens. Maybe at 10 o'clock. Maybe at 10 o'clock, half of what we just talked about becomes irrelevant. But it's I'll tell you what, Tony. There's more to it, and we have more to dissect here. And I know I have about.
But there's something I don't like about it, and I need to tell you.
Yeah,
the guy's going to arrive at this tournament fresh like roses. Everyone that has played in this face-off tourney so far is banged up. They're bruised, they're banged up, they're battered, they're tired, they're not at 100%. This guy's going to arrive at 120%.
Well, no, he's not. He's not, because he pulled out of the tournament.
I get that.
Too injured to play, and he's been injured all season. So,
I know that, but I mean, he's not showing up if he's not ready to go.
That's also mitigated. His freshness is mitigated by rust of not playing not only in NHL games, but at the speed that these games have been played at, and with the implications that are there.
Guy's a natural. He's a phenom. And
we'll see if he shows up. We'll see if he ends up in Boston. We'll see if he ends up in USA's lineup. I'd probably bet on both those things happening, but I could be completely wrong. And by the time this comes out at 10 o'clock, it could be irrelevant. I'll tell you what won't be irrelevant is what I wrote about today. And I'm not sure how many people picked up on this when they were watching Canada versus USA and USA versus Finland. Connor Hellebuyck has been amazing, not taking anything away from Connor Hellebuyck, okay? He faced 21 shots against the Finns. He gave up 15 rebounds. He faced 26 shots against Canada. He gave up 18 rebounds. He's a blocker.
Those are big numbers.
He's a blocker. He's not a guy who typically absorbs the puck like Carey Price did throughout his entire career. There's a bit of a difference in the way he plays. He's got great anticipation like Price did. He is really sound and square and big. But the puck does land in front of him quite a bit, and it's a credit to USA's defense the way they have played in front of him in this tournament. And even without him there, they still put up a pretty good wall against Sweden in a game that didn't really matter much, and they lost by 1 goal. Canada, if they're going to do this differently, I wrote about this today. There's 2 things that they need to do. They need to get to those rebounds. That's the first thing. And Sam Bennett knows they need to make life harder. He said that to me today. The second thing is something that I talked about with Josh Morrissey. I covered Colorado and Winnipeg in the playoffs last year. Connor Hellebuyck gave up 24 goals in 5 games.
Yeah.
A lot of them were on rebounds, but the majority of them were on Colorado using its speedy forwards like Nathan McKinnon to push Winnipeg's defense back. And then they'd hit the second layer on the rush and clog up the middle, and you'd have high slot screens, and those shots got through and got into the net. Mm-hmm. And Josh, he said, I was standing in front of the net for a lot of them. And guess who was taking them? The guy who wasn't playing when Canada played against USA on Saturday. Cale Makar is the best player in the world who plays defense, not named Quinn Hughes. And the thing that he does better than just about anybody in the league not named Zach Werenski is get his shot through. He has 175 shots on net so far this season. And Morrissey was just talking about Makar's ability to walk that line and get those shots through. You saw it so much against Finland. He hasn't scored yet in this tournament.
He had 4 shots on net yesterday, 4 block shots too, by the way.
It's coming, okay? And I just look at Hellebuyck. He has been great. I am not taking a thing away from him. He has been fantastic, but he is not perfect. And if Canada is going to beat him, which is a hell of a task against this defense, which is now missing Charlie McAvoy, which is a huge loss, it can't just be on the rush with their speed of McDavid and McKinnon. It has to be through those second wave plays and layers and getting there for the rebounds.
In your opinion, who's the player of the tournament thus far? And you can only answer a player from either Canada or USA because ultimately those are the 2 teams that are in the final.
Sidney Crosby. But I might give you a 3-way tie between Crosby, Werenski. No, a 4-way tie.
That's an interesting answer because he had a fantastic game in game 1. I thought he had a terrible game in game 2.
Yeah.
And I thought he had a very good game in game 3.
Crosby?
Yeah.
He made a determining play in a bad way against USA.
Yes. In game 2.
An east-west play that is the type of play that they took out of their game on Finland, right?
Yes.
He gets a pass coming across the line. His line mates are looking for a change. He throws a pass sideways near the blue line.
He either had to bring the puck into the corner or dump it in and wait for the line change.
He just had to chip it. The guy he was passing it to was coming with speed, moving past the U.S. defenseman. He just had to chip it. Instead,
JT Miller did a great job of getting the stick in the way, too.
But that's what they changed, right? Like, that is what they changed against Finland. They just managed the puck so much better. They didn't make those types of mistakes. I understand it got close at the end, but, like, Canada played a pretty surgical game. Werenski, Crosby, Brady Tkachuk. Brady Tkachuk played 3 minutes yesterday. He had 3 hits and just you could just tell he had 8 hits in the game against Finland, a couple goals. Against Canada, he was absolutely the straw that stirred the drink with his brother Matthew.
Yeah.
Miller.
Yeah.
Those guys have all been amazing. Can I give you a name in this tournament that I want to say is for a guy who has more than a point per game this season is the most underrated in this whole thing, and we never talk about him in the conversation of some of the best players in the world.
Jesper Bratt.
Jesper Bratt is absolutely incredible. His speed.
We don't talk about it because he's online with Jack Hughes, so his humans Jack Hughes. He's good.
Well, we're talking at this tournament about how Austin Matthews hasn't come to life offensively, and in the first couple of games, I didn't like his game. I'm sorry, but Austin Matthews was a non-factor offensively through the first couple of games of this tournament because, and I want to be careful about how I say this. I'm not going to say Jack Hughes isn't playing well. Jack Hughes is flying up the ice. He's in the right spots to get the puck. He has the puck on his stick a lot. He's zone entries, all that stuff. He has not found a way to calm himself down when it comes time to make the plays. You just see it. The passes are in the skates. The shots are not coming off his stick clean. And it just tells you about the magnitude of these games, because I think you would agree, Jack Hughes is one of the best players in the world.
Phenomenal.
He has not been that in this
top
tournament.
10 player in the world. Top 10 player in the world, Jack Hughes.
And I think if he wasn't squeezing it so tight and feeling so, oh my God, like the energy is getting the best of him, nobody would be talking about how he's been like a non-factor, because he's had the puck a ton. He's had the speed. He's had a lot of elements. If I'm Mike Sullivan, one change that I am 100% making for that game is I am separating him from Austin Matthews. I think Chris Kreider has put himself in the game. I think Kreider would be a good line mate for Matthews after playing with Eichel when Tkachuk went down. I just think he'll drive the net. He'll play simple. He'll create space for Matthews. Matthews needs to have the puck on his stick more. And with Jack Hughes on that line and the speed that Jack Hughes has, it's been more on Hughes' stick, and he's bobbled it a lot. Like he really has.
Yeah. Interesting line changes for Canada, right? By John Cooper putting Braden Point and Mark Stone with Connor McDavid, and having Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon have Sam Reinhart on their lines. I mean, it worked yesterday.
I would have had Braden Point in the top 6 from the start of this tournament, and nobody would have agreed with me more than John Cooper, who coaches him. But name a player who's been better in the playoffs over the last 5 years than that guy. Like, when I was building up my lines,
the only guy is probably his line mate in Tampa.
When I was building up my lines on paper a year ago, looking at this tournament coming up, I was saying to myself, Braden Point's on the number 1 line with McDavid and McKinnon. That was the way I saw it going for this tournament. So I just think he is such an incredible player. He plays the game the right way in every area of the ice. What a difference maker he is. Meanwhile, his line mate, or his teammate in Tampa, Brandon Hagel, leads Canada forwards with 11 hits in this tournament. He stood up to Matthew Tkachuk, said he wouldn't back down from him. And today when I said, you think you guys need to initiate the physical play that we saw in Saturday's game, knowing that USA is a bit banged up this time around? Like, I know Brady and Matthew are playing, but they're not at 100%. Same can be said for Austin Matthews, potentially Trocheck if he plays. Do you need to initiate that? And he just said, we're doing it. We don't need to do anything like that. I'm going to read you the quote. It was the best quote.
Yeah.
This whole thing. Here it is.
Speaking of Tampa Bay players, we have to talk about Cirelli. This is going to be a big game for Cirelli on Thursday.
We'll get there. This is what Brandon Hagel says. I think we're out there playing for the flag, not the cameras. That's part of Canada that we have in there. We don't need to initiate anything. We don't have any group chats going on. We're going out there playing our game and then giving it everything and doing it for our country. We don't need to initiate everything. We're just going to play as hard as we can do it. We're just going to play as hard as we can and do it for the flag on the chest. This is a great quote. He has been an eye-opener. Talk about Bratt.
We're doing it for the country, not for the cameras. Is that what he said? Something like that? That was a pretty strong line. He's basically saying the Kachucks are doing it for the cameras.
I think we're out there playing for the flag, not the cameras.
Yeah.
We don't have any group chats going on.
Yeah.
I mean, what a beauty. The way he's played.
We're not egomaniacs like the Kachucks. They do it for the cameras. We do it for the country.
It's just pouring sauce on something that's already pretty tasty here. Like this has been such an awesome tournament.
Yeah.
We're so lucky, with all respect to the Swedes and the Finns who played. Man, if they had the same type of crowd investment and the primetime viewing, and it was filled with Swedes and Finns.
Yeah.
That game that they played against each other, a 4-3 overtime game.
Yeah.
It was one of the best games we've seen in 10 years. Like, it was an amazing hockey game.
I liked McKinnon's quote too yesterday, saying, you know what, we feel we can beat those guys and we're happy to have another crack at them. And you know what? Without knowing it, I think the Finnish coach actually gave Canada some extra motivation as well by saying, you know what, I think the States are going to win.
Well, he was the character of the tournament. I mean, this guy, very interesting dude. I mean, he didn't run a full practice the first day. He wasn't on the ice for the morning skate, wasn't even in the building, skipped his media availability, showed up at 5:30 before they got smoked by the US 6-1. And then just coached the game of his life against Sweden for a 4-3 win that made it a do or die game against Canada. Like, there's been so much drama here. And again, no disrespect to the Swedes and the Finns, who good for the Swedes for winning that game. They were the only team that didn't lose in regulation in this tournament.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like, they had an incredible team. I've not seen Erik Karlsson play that way in 5 years. I mean, he was so good. I have my brother texting me nonstop. Oh, man, like, Rasmus Dahlin is so incredible. And I'm like, yeah, he is incredible. But, like, Victor Hedman, Jonas Brodin, and Gustav Forsling are three of the greatest defensemen in the game.
I really, this tournament, I mean, I really liked Urson yesterday in goal.
Oh, he was amazing.
I thought he was amazing. This tournament, I really loved the duo of Slavin and Faber.
Oh, well, Faber had a really, really rough start to this tournament.
Yeah.
Slavin is just, I mean, he's amazing.
Slavin's unbelievable. Slavin is unbelievable.
You mentioned Urson, okay? We've had a national, we should get into the goaltending. We talked about Hellebuyck. We've had a national debate about Canada's goaltending. Binnington came here. A lot of people in the country would have looked at him as the third best option Canada had on the roster, never mind who's not here.
Yeah. And
I don't know if any of those people have changed their opinion after watching him play, okay? I have my own thing about goaltending. I think we've become absolutely unbearable when it comes to what we expect of goaltenders in general. Like, it's always any shot that they can see or any shot from an angle that doesn't come directly from the middle of the slot or their goal mouth is something that they should stop. They're facing the greatest shooters in the world. Like, I think Binnington has been under a level of scrutiny that nobody else faced. Michael Granlund blew the puck through Linus Ullmark in the Finland-Sweden game. Nobody in overtime. Nobody said, well, that's a bad goal. Like, nobody looked at Linus Ullmark and was like, well, he's the reason they lost. The game against the Swedes that Canada had to open the tournament, where Binnington allowed 3 goals. Okay, Brodin's shot gets in from a bad angle. Probably should stop that. The second goal comes from Adrian Kempe, who is on a 1-on-2 rush and backs Doughty and whoever was with Doughty all the way down to the slot where he can uncork his shot. He's got one of the best shots in the world. Third and fourth liners shoot at a ridiculous pace now. Like, it's not the old days where Dominic Hasek could show you the glove and take it away with a double pad stack. Like, the shooters are incredible. They are so good. People hated the Jake Gensel goal that went in against Binnington in the USA game. By the way, Binnington faced 12 shots from the slot in that game. He stopped all 12 of them, including a great one against Gensel. Now, I get it. The Gensel shot should not go in. Jake Gensel has made his career scoring goals like that. Meanwhile, the golden goal, the most celebrated goal in Canada's history, outside of Paul Henderson in 72, it's a bang-bang play between Iginla and Crosby. Well, where does Crosby put that shot from a bad angle right through Ryan Miller's legs? Has anybody ever said that Ryan Miller shouldn't have allowed that goal and it's his fault? And we have to just start respecting the shooters in this world who are better than they ever have been at any other point. And I think Jordan Binnington has done a much better job than he's been giving credit for. I understand he's got to have some of those goals, okay? I understand he's got to make some of those stops. But I had to get this off my chest because I'm a little fucking annoyed at this point. By the way.
Listen, I get you to be annoyed. I think you should have had the first 2 versus Sweden, but he made 2 fantastic saves in overtime. And based on those saves, and I don't know if Cooper ever going into the tournament ever thought, am I going to use 2 goalies? But based on the 2 saves he made in overtime, I think he earned himself. He probably saved his spot for game 2. Game 2, like, once again, that first goal, I think you would want to have back. The second goal, it was a good shot. Was it savable? I mean, I guess, but it was a good shot. But the first goal he should have had for sure. Yesterday versus Finland, Michael Granlund's first goal, which was the second Finland goal of the one that beat him 5-0. I think he has to have that as well. He does play the puck better than any goalie they have. Cooper's right about that. He plays
McDavid's goal against USA. That play that he made.
Yeah,
looking like he was going forehand, ripping it around backhand, boom, pass up to McDavid, goal. Like, look, I'm not here to say Jordan Binnington is one of the best goalies in the world. I don't think he is. In fact, if you would ask me going into this tournament who was the best of the three of them, I would have said he's the third best. Okay.
Yeah, you would have said Aiden Hill was number one, Montembeault was number two. I had a feeling, but we talked about it. I had a feeling that Binnington was going to start. I don't
think Binnington has been was the reason they lost against USA. He allowed 2 goals and, like I said, stopped 12-12 from the slot. And I thought he was good enough to help them beat Sweden and had a big factor in doing that. He deserved the net against Finland and did what he needed to do against them. The first 2 shots of the game, Michael Granlund slipped one through Parayko right upstairs, and he just sat tall with his chest up and blocked it. And then, boom, like 18 feet out tip from Rantanen stops it. McDavid scores, different game, okay?
Yeah.
He made 3 saves on a second period power play that could have gotten Finland back into it. Bang, bang, bang in a row, all from 11 feet or less. Great saves. I'm not here to say Jordan Binnington is one of the best in the world, but he's been good enough in this tournament to help Canada win. And if they're going to beat the U.S., Canada has to do a lot more against Connor Hellebuyck. As we discussed, 18 rebounds, you have to get a couple of them. And
they're going to need everybody versus the U.S., including Binnington. And by the way, he's been in that situation before of one game
in this building,
winner
too.
Takes all in Boston. And that was back in 2019, of course, in Game 7.
He won all 3 in this building when they played that series.
Wow, isn't that something? We're going to talk about the Canadiens briefly in just a minute. But before we do, I think you talked about Brandon Hagel before and that great quote he gave you. We might have the audio.
It's going to be the same way. I think it's 2 countries. I mean, listen, what happened the other night, I think I did it for the flag and not for the cameras.
Yeah, that was the first. So he was asked about the other night. He answered that. Then I came in the second wave of media and asked him about initiating physicality, and that's when he gave the long-winded answer that I read out to you guys.
Yeah, your answer was better. All right, okay. On Quinn Hughes' eligibility to play Thursday. According to NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly, just like Harley in Canada, Quinn Hughes is not in unless someone else is definitely out due to injury or illness. Can't practice with the team or play until that happens. There's Pierre LeBrun.
Vinny Trocheck blocked that shot with his hand and rang it off and left the game for a bit and barely played in the third period of the last game. And if one guy that they have the opportunity to do that with, it's him. There's also a day of practice to come tomorrow. Both teams will skate. They will practice. If somebody goes down, then the opening is there. But like Elliot said, man, screw all of that. Like, just change it. Bring him over here. Get the game played with him involved.
This is kind of like a crazy question to ask, but I wonder if Canada would want Quinn Hughes to play because he is a high risk player.
I think if Canada gets the go ahead to say we're allowed to use Thomas Harley whether Cale Makar plays or not, which Cale Makar is playing, then all is fair game. And these guys are so proud. These guys have such confidence in themselves. It's best on best, and they want it to be the best of the best. That's what Elliot wrote. I am like 100% in agreement with Elliot on that.
All right. Montreal Canadiens. So you'll be happy to know that we got breaking news with the Canadiens. Breaking news. The beard is no more. Marty St. Louis has since shaved his beard, and it was a beardless Marty St. Louis that made his way in front of members of the Montreal media today. Also, the Canadiens let us know a couple of tweets that came out regarding Michael Pezzetta and Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson will not participate in today's practice. He did not. He had a therapy day. And Michael Pezzetta, lower body injury, not participating in the practice either. He'll be evaluated on a daily basis. Who did practice for the Montreal Canadiens? Caulfield, Carrier, Dobesh, Doc Hudson, Dvorak, Matheson, Evans, Savard, Gallagher, Struble, Newhook, Jackeye, Slavkovsky, and Suzuki. So there you have it. 8 forwards. We'll bring that back up. I believe 6 defensemen, and 1 goalie. So a total of 15 players. There you have it. So the Canadiens getting ready to they've started practicing, as have all the other teams, of course, as the Canadiens will get ready for their next game, which will be Saturday night in Ottawa versus the Senators. And if there's going to be a time to play the Senators, you're probably going to want it to be on Saturday because Brady Tkachuk might not be at 100%. Eric, I know you're totally focused on the Four Nations face-off, and I get it. Any last thoughts on the Montreal Canadiens?
Yeah, look, it's nice to see that Jake Evans is there. We'll see if he's there at the end of the week when they play against Ottawa. I'm not saying that he won't be, but you just think that some of the stuff that's gone on with general managers talking during this break will lead to some trades coming out of this tournament. I don't think anybody wants to take the luster or shine away from Thursday's game.
Yeah,
but there might be.
I think they're going to trade him.
There might be some things backlogged in the system based on what I've heard. Up until today that we're speaking at 3 p.m., nothing has changed in terms of the negotiation here. Like, I think I don't want to get – that's all I could say about it for now. That based on what
I
I've
said
heard.
something last week, and I'll say the same thing today. The Evans clan think he's gone. Can that change? That could change, right? It takes one or the two sides to say, hey, you know what? Let's put a little bit of water in our wine here. But last week I said the Evans clan.
What's definitive, okay, is that Jake Evans is not going to get the best deal he could possibly get out of the Canadiens. Okay, it's going to be available to him on the market much more so than it will be on the Canadiens, provided he remains healthy between now and the end of the season, and provided he has the opportunity to continue playing the way he has. Okay,
Depends how much he wants to remain a Montreal Canadiens.
But to sign a deal today on February 18th. Versus if the market opened tomorrow and he could walk to any team, it won't. His best deal is not coming from these guys, and that's why there isn't a contract that is signed as far as we know. Again, that could change with a phone call or whatever it is, but that makes it more likely that he'll be traded if nothing has changed. The other takeaways for me, look, I know people think the Canadiens are dead, especially if Evans is out the door. This regular season has been absurd. Okay, I'm not sitting here selling you that the Canadiens are going to make the playoffs. The idea that they could climb back into the mix is not impossible to me, with games against Buffalo and San Jose being 3 of the 6 they'll play between now and the deadline. I never would have told you they were going to start the season with 13 losses in 17 games. I never would have told you they were about to win 19 of 31 thereafter and be the hottest team in the league from mid-December to mid-January. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're about to lose the next 6 and just confirm it, that they're on their way out of this whole picture and on their way to the bottom 5 pick, because they could win 5 of them and be right back in where you thought. I didn't think Detroit was going to come back from losing 5 in a row to post 7 wins in a row. I didn't think that Ottawa was going to play as defensively sound hockey as they did before crapping out just ahead of this break with a couple of bad losses. This Eastern Conference is the most absurd playoff race towards the bottom that I've seen in 17 years covering. It just tells you how close these teams are. I remember before the season started, Tony, I said to you, the way I see the league is 5 really good teams and like 20 in the middle where...
Yeah, I remember that when you said that.
You might think Tampa is this much better than this team. Boston is this much better than that team, but the difference is like who gets off to a good start, whose goaltending is good, and how healthy the roster is. Like it's on paper means nothing. The games are played on the ice, and what we've seen is that there is very little separating many of these teams, regardless of what you see on paper. So,
all right,
we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, Eric, in ending, I'm not going to ask you what your prediction is and who's going to win the game on Thursday night. However, if you were a betting man, you go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses, and you scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario, and you must be 18 years of age and over. Please play responsibly. If you were to put $1 or $2 down on, once again, I'm not going to ask you who's going to win the game. I will ask you who the player of the game will be, though. Who's going to get that Rolex?
Well, I think Canada is going to win the game.
There you go.
I think Canada is going to win the game. And as far as who the best player is, that's a harder question to answer, because on any given night, it could be McKinnon, it could be McDavid, it could be Crosby, it could be Binnington, it could be Doughty. Maybe if I had to choose one,
But
If he hasn't scored, Cale Makar would probably.
I was going to say that because don't forget in that series between Winnipeg and Colorado, there was they stopped the first wave, but there's always somebody trailing coming back, and that guy that did a lot of damage on Connor Hellebuyck was Cale Makar, like you told us earlier on in the podcast. Thank you, Eric. And by the way, I predicted the United States to win this tourney before it started, and guess what? For the first time in my life, maybe more. It hasn't happened too often. Man, do I hope I'm wrong. And I hope you're right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. See you. All right, there you have it. Eric Engels of Sportsnet at sportsnet.ca. Special thanks to all of you for watching. Tomorrow, Craig Button will join me in the Sick Podcast. And on Thursday, immediately following Canada versus USA. So it's not going to be at 10 p.m. because the game might be over at 10:45. It might be at over 11 p.m. Whatever it is, it might be over 11:30 p.m. because it's golden goal overtime if they go to overtime. Immediately following that game on Thursday, Pierre Maguire will be my guest, and he and I will do this together the way we usually do after Canadiens games on the Sick Podcast. Special thanks for watching. Leave us a 5-star review. It's our way of feeling the love for Shingo Mo and Master Control. I'll be back tomorrow night. Oh, by the way, reminder, tomorrow night is trivia night with Quizmaster Brian. Trivia night with Quizmaster Brian. Don't forget that. There we go. Look at that. Habs Trivia Night. Join me and Quizmaster Brian on Wednesday, February 19th. That's tomorrow to test your Montreal Canadiens knowledge at La Belle et la Boeuf, 1275 Avenue des Canadiens. Doors open at 6:30. Trivia begins at 7:30. $35 per ticket includes entry to the quiz and a choice of 3 burgers. Trivia teams can be up to 4 players. Get all the details in our links and on our social media channels. Special thanks once again for everyone watching, and I hope to see you tomorrow night at La Belle et la Boeuf, Habs Trivia Night. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.